want your I'm cool. Got 100 mil on my to-do list. Got killed with a he's stupid. It's like this way, just don't miss. Don't hit when we come back, shoot.
It is Truth to Power with Kyle Walsh on the award-winning 101.7 The Truth. Zach done played my intro music, got me all hyped up. This is the music I listened to back when I played sports to get me all hyped up and ready to go, Truth Nation. But 833-212-1017, that is the Truth Talk to Text line.
This song just came out. What are you talking about?
No, what I'm saying is this would be the type. I should say type of music I will listen to get me hyped up. This one would be the type.
Like, you ain't that young.
Nah, I ain't that young at all. This would be the type of music. Make sure y'all watch and stream live on YouTube, 101.7 The Truth on YouTube, because in a couple seconds here, I'm going to play a video, because I want y'all to be able to see these videos. I want y'all to be able to see the visual, right? To see people talking in the way that they are. I want y'all to understand what we're talking about, because right now we're talking about the state Supreme Court race, which is a nonpartisan race, where Susan Crawford is running and Brad Schimel is also running. We spoke to Susan Crawford on Monday. We made a plan. She followed through. We did our interview. Brad Schimel, we made a plan. Did not follow through, and they've been kicking the can down the road. And I told them, I don't have time for this. I don't have time to be jerked around and moved around. I don't have time for that because I have somebody special joining us tomorrow. So I said, listen, we got to get this done. I gave them more than enough time. They ignored me, so it is what it is. So I had to draw my own conclusions about Brad Schimel and his record. But as I was talking about on the other side, I was talking about an individual named Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk, again, he is a conservative podcaster who promotes white nationalist ideas, constantly promotes white nationalist ideas. And he also does not shy away from making overtly racist comments on his podcast. He makes overtly racist comments on his podcast, kind of like podcast comments like this.
You really have to wonder. In fact, you know, if we would have said 3 weeks ago, Blake, if we would have said that Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously. Play cut 52.
You don't have the brain power to be taken seriously. This is what Charlie Kirk, a podcaster, he part of a Turning Point as well, but he is a podcaster. He literally just said that Michelle Obama and Ketanji Brown Jackson, both who are double Ivy League grads for undergrad and also got their law degree from Ivy League schools, don't have the brain capacity, and that they took a white man's job. I just want y'all to understand what this man just said. He just said, and I want y'all to know, Ketanji Brown Jackson was born in 1970. Her father went to law school. So what he is saying is, despite how hard black people work, despite how hard we have to work to get to where we are, we still are dumb and we still aren't good enough. That is what Charlie Kirk said. Charlie Kirk told a second-generation African-American woman who is an attorney, and her father was an attorney. He went up here and said that you are not smart enough and that you stole a white man's job. That's what Charlie Kirk said. So I just want y'all to understand, Charlie Kirk, I just want y'all to know who he is. Charlie Kirk is a conservative podcaster. That's a pretty messed up thing for him to say about Michelle Obama and about Ketanji Brown Jackson, who right now is in the United States Supreme Court. She was a United States Supreme Court justice. But wait, y'all, there's more. This is also Charlie Kirk making a comment about if he were to go on planes. And before we get to that one, I want y'all to know Charlie Kirk also called George Floyd a scumbag. After George Floyd died, he called him a scumbag. This is who Charlie Kirk is. Google it, look it up. But also recently, he made a comment about black pilots.
And that's why I think this United story and the DEI story hits so hard, because we've all been in the back of a plane when the turbulence hits, or when you're flying through a storm and you're like, I'm so glad I saw the guy with the right stuff and the square jaw get into the cockpit before we took off. And I feel better now thinking about that. No, I mean, like,
you want to go thought crime? Like, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Well, that's the you wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have done that before.
That's not an immediate.
No, you would.
Did y'all just hear what he said? If I see a black pilot, boy, I hope he's qualified. This individual, Charlie Kirk, does not care about black people and does not believe black people earned anything that we have gotten in life. Yo, I just played the audio for you, right? Like, he seems like a really terrible guy. If this wasn't radio, there's another word I would use with Sugar, Honey, and Iced Tea that talk about this individual. But he, more than likely, is somebody I would not want around me. But if your name is Brad Schimel, see, and you're running for the state Supreme Court judge here in the state of Wisconsin that has 392,000 black people in it, you would think it was a perfect idea to associate yourself with someone who believes black people who are not smart enough to rise in the professional ranks. Black people aren't intelligent enough to fly a plane. And you know how I know Brad Schimel is okay with aligning himself with somebody like Charlie Kirk, who made racist comments because he said it himself last week when he joined WISN 11:30 a.m. about how he felt about Charlie Kirk.
Good morning, Jay. I'm great. We had a great event out in Oconomowoc last night with Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump Jr.
Wait a minute. That's Brad Schimel on 11:30 WISN last Tuesday. And we just talked about Charlie Kirk, right? The individual that made racial comments about the fact that Ketanji Brown Jackson, Michelle Obama weren't smart enough. They didn't have intelligence. And then on top of that, he talked about getting on a plane with a black pilot, and he would be nervous to fly on a plane with a black pilot. His name is Charlie Kirk. And Brad Schimel, just last Tuesday, the 18th, Zach, play that again. Did he just say it's a great day? He was just joined by the same Charlie Kirk? Play that again for me, Zach.
Good morning, Jay. I'm great. We had a great event out in Oconomowoc last night with Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump Jr. Event out in Oconomowoc last night with Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump Jr. Night with Charlie Kirk and Charlie Kirk and Charlie Kirk and Donald.
Yep, y'all heard that right. The same Charlie Kirk that made those offensive comments about black women, who said black women who have worked their ass off to get where they were. A black woman in Ketanji Brown Jackson, who actually is a daughter of a lawyer, said that they stole a white man's job and they were not smart enough. The same individual that said he wouldn't want to get on a flight with a black pilot because he wouldn't believe that he actually deserved to be there. The same man that called George Floyd, a man that we saw get murdered. We saw on camera him get murdered, and the empathy he showed to him was to call him a scumbag. And Brad Schimel, who is running to be the state Supreme Court justice here in the state of Wisconsin that represents over 300,000 black people, believes that it is cool to campaign and have on stage with him, Charlie Kirk? Is this a joke? How the hell is Brad Schimel going to sit here and represent the state of Wisconsin when he allows somebody like that who spews that type of hate and nonsense and stereotypes about me, about you, about our community, and brag about how he just had a great campaign rally with Charlie Kirk? He invited Charlie Kirk to be on stage with him. We have to understand what we're up against. This is why I get so frustrated when we have this conversation about Democrats and Republicans. White people in general, yes, there are a lot of bad white people on both sides. And there's a lot of great white people on both sides as well. But when there's a dude like Charlie Kirk on any side, we should all condemn it, regardless of our political affiliation. Because at the end of the day, I'm not a Democrat, I am not a Republican, I'm not a Libertarian, I'm not an independent. I am Kyle Wallace, who is a black free man in this country and a proud American citizen. And what Charlie Kirk said is disrespectful to everybody who works their ass off in this country. To try to diminish black women like that, and then Brad Schimel believes it was the right idea to brag about him coming when he joined WISN 1130 is a complete joke. He said, I had a great event with Charlie Kirk, who demeaned two women who went to Ivy League schools, undergrad, and got their JDs as well. But I'm telling y'all, I don't personally know Brad whatsoever, but there is an old saying that I alluded to earlier. Birds of a common feather, they do flock together. And Brad Schimel, you are one who openly bragged and happily talked about how you invited an offensive podcaster who perpetuates racial stereotypes of black people of not being good enough to come campaign with you. And to sit here and say you have the audacity to say that you support all Wisconsin citizens, how can I trust you? The company you keep perpetuates stereotypes of black people, even though these black people have earned everything they have gotten. So I can only assume either you agree with what Charlie Kirk said about black women and black pilots, or you don't believe what he says, but you don't find his comments offensive because you didn't publicly condemn them. And again, I cannot say you're a racist, Brad Schimel, because I do not know you. But what I can say is that you are an enabler of racism. This is not what Wisconsin is about. You had an opportunity to not allow for him to be on stage with you, but instead you went on another radio station and bragged about him being on stage with you because you understood the base that you were trying to get to don't give a damn about black people neither. You are an absolute disgrace, and I'm telling y'all this right now. On the other side, I see your calls. I see your texts. I'm going to get to it, but I'm going to tell y'all this right now. I'm going to let y'all know about Brad Schimel's record because this is just a judgment of character that is poor. But also, I'm going to talk about his performance as well. Because listen, Truth Nation, I'm telling y'all, yeah, I'm upset and mad, but I didn't say a damn lie here today. And nor did I say anything personally against Brad Schimel. All I did was lay out who he associated himself with. You should be ashamed of yourself. You don't represent me. You don't represent Milwaukee. You don't represent Waukesha. You don't represent Brookfield. You don't represent any of these places here in Wisconsin because you, my friend, and I shouldn't say my friend, you, sir, are a poor excuse for a Wisconsinite. Because I know my state of Wisconsin actually cares more about me than people try to make to be in the media. Our community can come together and support one another. But you don't deserve that seat based off the company you keep. 833-212-1017. On the other side, I got more stuff I want to share with y'all. I see y'all calls. I see your texts. We'll get to that on the other side. This is Truth to Power with Kyle Wallace on the award-winning 1017 The Truth. I'm Kyle Wallace, your host of Truth to Power on the award-winning 1017 The Truth. 833-212-1017. That is The Truth. To talk, text to talk to text line here. You can also watch and stream us live on YouTube, 1017 The Truth on YouTube. Give it a like, give it a subscribe as well. And on the other side, we're talking about state Supreme Court candidate Brad Schimel, who is running for to be our state Supreme Court justice in the election that you can vote early in now. You have until March 29th to vote early at 4:30 in Milwaukee. But then also make sure you vote on April 1st, Election Day. Remember, you can always register in person to vote on Election Day. And the reason why I wanted to talk about Brad Schimel, because he didn't come on for an interview, which is fine, because I wanted to ask him some questions, valid questions, and he decided not to come on, so I had to draw my own conclusions. And the first conclusion I wanted to talk about is the fact that he gloated about having Charlie Kirk, who is a conservative podcaster who talked about Ketanji Brown Jackson, who is a U.S. Supreme Court justice, who has her undergrad and her JD from Harvard, and also talked about Michelle Obama, who has she went to Princeton for undergrad and got her law degree from Harvard as well. And he said that those two individuals took jobs from white men and that they weren't intelligent. And then on top of that, he called George Floyd a scumbag. And then he also said he wouldn't want to be on a plane with a black pilot. And Brad Schimel bragged about having that guy in his corner. And so for me, I say for the 300,000 plus African Americans in the state of Wisconsin, take that information and take that knowledge and do with it as you wish. But 833-212-1017. White Widow, you're on the award-winning 1017 The Truth. What are your thoughts about the election?
Hey, hi, Kyle. Yeah, as far as that guy goes, I mean, it's ignorance on steroids, and he obviously didn't know about the black captain during Vietnam who took over the suicide crew. People don't realize ground to missile. Vietnamese had that way before we did in Vietnam, and he took on the black corporal took on this avionics. What is it when the Navy, Army, Marines, and Air Force?
Yes.
He took on this crew and reduced the return rate. Return rate was 50%.
Okay, I feel you.
And so that he's just ignorant. But I want to say something about the election.
Yes, ma'am. Really.
The Democrats have to start propelling the black issues in the forefront. I am tired. I worked for the Kamala campaign. I was with the SEIU. There was 12 of us in the room. 5 of them can't vote. They work at the courthouse. They're illegal. and 5 of them. Don't you think there should have been 12 home health care givers who are citizens making that kind of money? And Crawford's doing the same thing. Until the Democrats propel the issues of the black people in America that is in the forefront and stands alone, does not get blended with LGBTQ and illegals because they're children. It doesn't matter. Until that happens, it's just not going to happen.
Thank you so much, White Widow. I appreciate your comments. 833-212-1017. Black Conscious, you're on the award-winning 1017 The Truth. What are your thoughts on this conversation today?
Yeah, I want you to first, Mr. Wallace, to not, you're thinking too much with your heart and conscience. And when it comes to individuals like that, it is best that we be aware of what they're saying, but only dogs get mad, and he doesn't have that power of you to make you feel anyway.
I appreciate that. I think it's important for me to educate people on exactly of who's trying to run for a position that represents us, Wisconsin.
No doubt. And it would never be said anything about the passion you have with it. But please manage that, because you're getting to be an older man, and stress brings on hyper and all of that. So what we need to do, I hear you, White Widow, about what the Democrats used to do. I'm past that. What we need to do as American citizens, as Milwaukee, get out and vote. That's the most important. They could say, they gonna say what they want to say in the times that we're living in. Freedom of speech, right? They gonna act and gonna show their colors because of the 34 convicted felon that's in the House. They gonna do what they want to do and don't have no remorse for it. We can't control that.
I feel you. Thank you so much, Black Conscious. I appreciate you. 833-212-1017. Al, you're on the award-winning 1017 The Truth. What are your thoughts on this conversation today?
Well, I find it very odd nobody never say anything about the undocumented Europeans or these homegrown terrorists that's here grown in America, and the immigrant that's taken away from Africa, that's taking away things from American people who are wearing hats that's made in China and Honduras. Interesting. Moving forward, I was going to tell you, Kyle, when it comes to this Schimel guy and the other guy, please keep in mind he comes from a bloodline of Cecil John Rose, Prince Leopold, and them Jeffrey Dahmers, okay? So respect him for who he are, because the apples don't fall too far from the tree. So we just got to keep pushing forward, because they always show their true colors, and zebras never change their stripes.
Thank you,
Have
Al.
a good day.
You too, Al. I appreciate that. 833-212-1017. I appreciate everybody's commentary and thoughts on this conversation, and even thinking about my own personal health. But yeah, I do get very passionate about things because I love our community, and I love being black. And I hate the fact that we get treated and judged, right? Like that, as if we're not good enough. And I just remember when I went to college, because I went to a very rigorous high school. And when I went to high school wasn't easy. Like getting on the bus early in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. That means I'd be up before that and getting on the bus to go to school, from the age of, I did early school in kindergarten, so I think school started like 8:05. So at that time, it's, getting on the bus probably 7 o'clock as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, right? And then school started earlier in middle school, right? You're on the bus, and I lived far out, so I was like the first kid to get picked up. And so I just remember when I was in high school, I didn't achieve at the same level as some of my white peers, right? And it made me have this sense of like, okay, well, I'm not as smart as they are, right? And it wasn't until, and I believed in myself, don't get it twisted, I just said, these kids are smart, right? There were other factors that dealt with the things that I had to overcome, right? I had two parents that worked hard. Like, they both went to work. I didn't have a parent that was, when I got home all the time, that was there, right? Like, that was going to help me with my homework right away. My mom and dad, they worked all day. They came home, and they did a great job raising me and my family. But I just remember when I went to Whitewater for school, and my GPA in high school, 2.5 GPA, right? I didn't have the highest GPA, but I always believed in myself because I knew I was intelligent. I said, you know what, high school, I'm not worried about it. When I go to college, I'm going to excel, which I did. But I never forget the first time in college when I remember the kids in the class, white kids in the class, wanted to copy off of me. I was like, well, you copying off of me? Like, what do you mean? You the white one, right? And that's when I had the realization that how I enjoyed my education, but I had this preconceived notion of white people in the suburbs that, oh, white people are smart and this and that. And then finally, when I got out of that sheltered community of education, that I realized that, nah, some of these people ain't that smart, right? And I said, people are trying to copy off of me and all that. And so for people to walk around and to try to tell us that we aren't good enough, that we aren't smart enough, it's not good for you mentally. And it could lead people to believing this nonsense that people say. And that's something that we cannot continue to have in our community, think that our kids aren't great, our kids aren't intelligent, our kids don't have so much potential. So that's why it bothers me so much when we allow for this language to happen, because it impacts kids. It impacts the future of America. All our kids are intelligent and smart. They just need a great opportunity. 833-212-1017 to call. You're on the award-winning 1017 The Truth. What are your thoughts on this conversation?
My thoughts are you're doing an excellent job of fact-checking that false narrative that is being promoted by the erasure of Black history by this current administration. And I commend you for spending your time on here doing that and doing it passionately the way Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X. And so what you're actually doing, contrary to what the previous caller said, is you're venting that frustration right here on the air and being very eloquent in doing that. Now, with that said,
thank you.
Have you ever heard of Harper College?
Harper College, isn't that in Illinois?
It's in Palatine, Illinois.
Yeah.
In the middle of the state, I believe. A very rural, red area. And that's the college where Charlie Kirk dropped out of.
Oh, wow.
To join the Tea Party. So DEI is that. So what we can do is flip that to be dumb, egotistical, and ignorant is the acronym from now on the truth, if you will allow.
I love that.
Because that's what you get with mediocre white people like Charlie Kirk who want to pretend that they can hold a candle to Joy Reid, who you mentioned, to definitely First Lady forever Michelle Obama, and any Supreme Court judge two of whom graduated from Harvard.
Yeah.
So this is what they want to promote in states like Florida, where they erase our Black history, and this is what a lot of people foolishly voted for due to their love of the Confederacy. And what you're seeing is a secessionist movement that is about Nazism and a Confederate philosophy, and we have to continue to resist that as Americans, no matter what our colors are.
Thank you to caller. I absolutely agree with everything that you were saying. I appreciate everybody chiming in, texting in, calling in, watching on YouTube, listening on your radio, streaming the app as well. But I just felt like we need to have a conversation about Brad Schimel because, again, since he did not come on, I had to draw my own conclusions about the company that he keeps. And he's an enabler of racism. That's exactly what he is. He bragged about having somebody on stage with him and campaigning with him, somebody who is basically supporting him, who has made insensitive comments about African Americans who have achieved so much. But in addition to that, Truth Nation, I also want to tell y'all a story about Brad Schimel, about the man that is running to be the next Supreme Court justice here in the state of Wisconsin. And I want to discuss his record a little bit because I believe he is unfit to represent you and represent me and represent we, the state of Wisconsin. See, when Susan Crawford came on, I asked her a question about, a sexual assault case, right? And I asked her that question. She answered it. She said that she stands behind her decision. She said it was a first-time offender, and she believed 11 years, which was 5 years in jail and 6 years of supervision. She thought that was good enough. Again, that wasn't an easy question. That was something that I asked her about. And see, Brad Schimel also had handed down a similar type of case where a man in his courtroom, he had a man come to his courtroom, and the man was in possession of child pornography. Okay, possessing child pornography comes with a minimum sentence of 3 years. I wanted to ask Brad Schimel, why he handed down a minimum sentence of 3 years to a sick individual who watched child pornography. He handed down the minimum sentence to somebody who watched child pornography, and I just simply wanted to know why he didn't give a harsher sentencing, why he didn't believe that it was a huge deal to have somebody owning and watching child pornography. But I would have loved for him to explain, based off of his judgment, of why he decided he wanted to give the minimum sentence of 3 years. Now, I do know, there's reports that the attorney for the gentleman that watched child pornography donated money to his campaign, but I don't want to draw any comparisons because I don't know, right? They could be friends. There's a lot of attorneys who are friends. But I just wanted to know why he did that. But in addition to that, Truth Nation, if that isn't enough, I want to have a conversation about rape kits because you guys have heard about these rape kits probably in the news. You may have seen it all, the ads, attack ads. And I want to make sure everybody has the facts and the real story behind these